Hey guys, welcome to another episode of No Commentary, where I do an intro and outro and leave you in the midtro. And this time we're playing A Walk in the Park, which is a first-person walking simulator, which, again, I really just hate the way that sounds because it sounds like it's an offensive term when it really shouldn't be, because I like these games where you just explore and it tells a little bit of a story and there's a beautiful environment. I see nothing wrong with that. So anyway, I don't really know what the story is for this, but I found it on GameJolt, and I'm not going to talk anymore because that's not the point of this series, so we're just going to jump into it. Start a game. Click.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, I got loaded, and I got food. Drunk myself sober, thinking of you. Why did you have to go now, after all we've been through?
Ring, ring, ring. That's the tone. It's your best friend calling. You better pick up the phone. Ring, ring, ring. That's the tone. It's your best friend.
Hey, it's me. Hey, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, good. Look, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. Well, I'm glad you decided to go anyway. I think it's going to be good for you, and I am going to talk you through the route. You installed that GPS app, right? So I can track you. Did you? Look, hold on a second. I can check it. But did you email me the code? Did you? All right, don't worry about it. I'll check that too. Give me a second. I'll be back. Okay, right. Look, I know that you don't feel much like talking, and you don't have to. I got the code, I'm tracking you, and I can see that you're at the car park. So you made it there, so well done. It's a good start, well done. But the no talking thing, maybe if you could just grunt or breathe heavily now and again, just so I know I'm not talking to myself. Okay. Now, first you want to head north-ish. That's over towards the bins and the map. It's in like a kind of a wooden bus shelter thing. If you're walking towards the sun, then you're walking in the wrong direction. Do not walk into the light. Ooh, don't walk into the light. Sorry about that. That was poor taste. I'm sorry, Charlie. Anyway, that aside, what's important to understand about this little journey that we're on is that I will be telling you jokes as we navigate around my little route. I thought it would either cheer you up or piss you off so much that you topped yourself. So we say win-win. Okay. So joke number 1. I'll go deadpan for this one. I bought a dog from a blacksmith. When I got him home, he made a bolt for the door. I'm gonna assume you're laughing on the inside. Just go over to the map. Right, so you are at the map. Now, take a close look at the map, mate. Examine it very carefully. Memorize it. Pay close attention to the marked paths, because we are following that. It's not long, so don't worry. You should only take like an hour or two. The phone signal's pretty good across the park, and the weather looks nice-ish, kind of, according to my weather app anyway. So look out of the gate by the map, look straight ahead. Can you see an old wooden church across the river? I'm going to assume you can because it's there. So unless it's incredibly foggy, you can see a church. What you want to do is head towards the church, but don't obviously walk into the river, and then follow the path along the river for a while. You're going to come to some biggish rocks, and when you get there, I will call you back. Alright, speak to you later. Bye. Me again. So, you made it to the rocks. They're quite impressive, aren't they? Kind of big and imposing, but solid. Like a good friend. Not intimidating, well, I don't think so anyway. These are granite, by the way, which is weird, because that means these kind of big lumps popped out of the boiling magma that is right under your feet. Which, by the way, is probably only about 10 to 20 miles down. That's kind of scary. Always makes you feel pretty weak and pathetic, standing where you are. Anyway, next stop is large copse of trees. Just carry on sort of northish. You can just follow the path for now. Just walk along the side of the river a bit more. You'll get to like a fork. To the right is like a gate. You don't need to go through there. The left path will take you through the forest. Once you're in the trees, assuming we've still got a signal, I will give you another call. Okay. Bye. Here's a joke. How would you briefly describe an acorn? Well, in a nutshell, it's an oak tree. Oh, come on. At least make some kind of noise. Oh, nice. Look, Charlie. I know what happened is... Oh, bollocks. Look, I want to talk to you about it. I want us to talk about it. But I don't know what to say. I don't even know how to start. I'd known Taylor longer than you. We grew up together. We went to school together. We played camp in the frickin' forest together. And eventually, as you well know, we all went to the same university together. Oh, well, you seem so happy. So incredibly wrapped up in one another. I'll admit, I was a little jealous. I guess it was bittersweet for me. I mean, you know, well, you and me, we get on all right. right? I mean, I think you may even be my busy mate. Mate. So yeah, it was bittersweet. But the sweet far outweighed the bitter, so it's all good. So, what I'm trying to say is that when Taylor died, when Taylor was killed, we both lost someone. For the first few weeks after it happened, I couldn't sleep. I kept feeling guilty. Can you believe that? I felt guilty. I felt like if I'd been there, I could have stopped it. Why wasn't I there? If only, I was there, Charlie. I could have stopped it. I lost someone too. Oh, geez, I need a drink. I'm gonna grab myself a wee dram. And I bet you didn't bring any of the good stuff with you, did you? But don't you worry, because I think of everything. I have a little surprise for you. When I was up there just a few weeks ago, I stored a little something in a secret little cache up ahead. So don't you worry. You'll get yours. Speak soon.
Ring, ring, ring. That's the tone. It's your best friend calling. You better pick up the phone. Ring, ring.
Is this working? I mean, is it helping? I wanted to be with you, obviously, but then I'd have had some explaining to do. So it's better this way. But, you know, if it's not helping, we can just stop. I thought we'd get out in the countryside, fresh air, scenery, blow some cobwebs away, shoot the breeze, chat. But if it's not working, don't worry about it. I mean, we're almost there, by the way, to my special place, the place I wanted to show you. But if you want to stop, turn back, that is fine. I wanted to give you the chance, right? The option. Not sure I could live with myself if I forced you into this. So, you want to keep going? Charlie?
Yeah.
That's great. So, listen to this. An architect should live as little in cities as a painter. Send him to our hills and let him study there what nature understands by a buttress and what by a dome. That's a quote by John Ruskin, and before you start getting all worried, no, I'm not going to start quoting deep and meaningless things at you. And no, I did not just happen to know that quote. I googled it while I was planning out this day. See, I did think this through a little bit. I suppose I wanted some things for us to talk about that weren't, well, just some other stuff. And I thought if the conversation dried up, I could throw a quote in and we could discuss it a bit. But I suppose conversing and discussing are not really what's happening right now. And that's okay, honestly. It is absolutely fine. It's good. So I'll tell you what I think about it. Obviously, there's the literal meaning, i.e. architects should learn from nature. But maybe he's not just talking about architects, and maybe by nature he really means evolution. I mean, animals and the land evolve, right? Nature, especially geology, happens the way it does because it simply can't happen another way. And if that's true, it must be right. Correct. Right? The correct path is the only path, I suppose. And the only path is the correct one. Oh, maybe I'm talking about fate. Oh, no. Let's not go there. Well, not yet, anyway. Oh, I wish I was there with you. I wish I could see your face. Especially later, because this little walk gets even better. But we're stuck with the phone, so I'll just have to imagine it all. Now, just like life, you climb a freaking hill, think you're at the top, and then yay, there's another steeper one in your way. And that's true of this little journey that you are on. You see that kind of rickety bridge looking thing? Have a look around. I don't know if you can see it. It should be pretty obvious if you're at the top of the hill, which my tracker says you are. It's a big, long, rickety, wooden, bridgey thing. Well, you're going up there. It's not hard and it's quite safe, so don't worry. But all the same, be careful. I would hate for you to hurt yourself now. So close to the end. I mean, close to our target. The place I want you to visit. I'll call you back when you're at the top. almost there. We are almost there, Charlie. This place... Oh, jeez. This place makes me feel so tiny. So incredible at the same time. Makes me feel like I'm a tiny, weeny cog in like a gigantic, complicated, frantically buzzing machine. I mean, I am tiny, but I'm a part of it, and it is wonderful. I'm doing my thing, what needs to be done, fulfilling my purpose, I suppose. It's wonderful, Charlie. Wonderful. Do you feel it, Charlie? Yes. Take a deep breath. Taylor and I used to come up here, as kids, and then even as we got older, we still came up here from time to time. Kind of dropped off as we got older. Talking of dropping off, that's kind of what I wanted you to do now. Or drop down, really. There's a kind of crack or like a small gorge by a biggish tree. Should be pretty obvious. So I want you to hop down into that little bit where the stream is. And then, when you hop down, you will be there, Charlie. Right where I want you to see... well, just enjoy the last few minutes up here.
Ring, ring, ring. That's the tone. It's your best friend calling. You better pick up the phone. Ring, ring.
Hey, we're here. So, to celebrate, here's a quick joke in a kind of Groucho Marx style. I just read a list of the top 10 things to do before you die. I was surprised that yell for help wasn't one of them. Okay. I like that. Apologise for the accent. I know it was rubbish. Terrible impression, but... Well, look, I promised you a little drop of the good stuff. Well, it is hidden in a little crack, just where the waterfall kind of comes down and hits the stream, just to the left of that. And when you found it, enjoy yourself. Have a swig. Have two. You deserve it, mate. And yes, it was bloody expensive, so you better not waste it. Go on. Charlie? Are you okay? What's going on? Are you okay? Talk to me. Jesus, what is going on? What? Hey. Oh, Jesus, look, Charlie, look. Okay, I am assuming you're in trouble. Now listen to me. I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call for some help. And don't worry. I know exactly where you are. I'll call back soon. Hang on. It's going to be okay.
That's the tone. It's your best friend calling you.
Hey, Charlie, it's me. You okay? Still can't talk, eh? Well, don't worry, buddy. I've got everything under control. You just sit tight and soon you'll be fine. You know, Taylor rang me just before... you know what. All upset. Life is over, crap. I'm trapped. I'm not in love. I made a mistake. Oh, I was sympathetic. Very sympathetic. I think I even cried too. You see, I loved Taylor. In fact, I had always loved Taylor, ever since we were kids. But then you had to come along and be all cool and interesting, didn't you? We were doing fine until you... Well, anyway, I'm guessing things are starting to dawn. Bells are starting to ring. Light bulbs are starting to shine. And it looks to me like you are a bit stuck. Doesn't look like you can get out, can you? Just like Taylor couldn't get out. You're stuck, mate. Stuck, mate. Game over. You tosser. Oh yeah? Just dawning on you now, isn't it? Thing is, you killed Taylor. You killed Taylor. Maybe not intentionally. Maybe you didn't actually take a human life with your bare hands. No. I mean, well, I had to do that, didn't I? But you killed that vibrant, lovable, joyous spirit. Oh my God. And when that was gone, all that was left was a broken Taylor. So just like a poor little lame animal, well, I had to put it out of its misery, didn't I? You understand, right? Of course you do. Oh, you are in a pickle. What to do? What to do? Oh, I know. Call the police. There's a madman trying to kill me. Only the trouble is, you can't. You know that app I had you install? Well, it doesn't just track you. Its purpose is quite ironic, really. It's intended for parents and helps them to keep their kids safe. One of its features is to allow Mummy and Daddy to inhibit phone functions like calling and texting at certain times of day, so that little Jemima doesn't spend all night talking or messaging their friends. And you, well, you know I'm not one to blow my own trumpet, but I really do think of everything. Oh, well, I think this is it, Charlie. This is where you and me say goodbye. If I was you, I'd just find a nice place to sit down and let the eventually freezing night air drag you into the darkness. It's not such a bad way to go. Should be quite painless. If you don't fight it, well, bye. Oh, wait. Hello, Al. I almost forgot. I've got another joke. Well, I'm going to do this upbeat. Yeah. It's your last joke. I'll try and make it good. 3 men died, and they're taken by God to the top of a cliff. God says to them that since they've been such great, wonderful human beings, had led kind and caring lives, that they'd be given a second chance at life, and that they could be anything they want to be. Just run and jump off the cliff, and as you do, tell me what you would be, and it shall be so, says God. So, the first man runs towards the edge of the cliff and says, I want to be a... He then jumps into the air and shouts, Eagle! Instantly, he's changed into an eagle and he soars off into the sunset. The second man runs towards the edge of the cliff and says, I want to be a... He then also jumps into the air and shouts, Condor! Instantly, he's changed into a condor and he too soars off into the sunset. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I know the end of this. Finally, the third man stands, looking a bit confused. What is wrong, my child? Says God. Oh, nothing, really. It's It's just, I'm a little afraid of heights, says the man. You have seen my power, child. You have nothing to fear. Simply ask and it will be yours. Right, okay, says the man. And he begins running towards the edge of the cliff. And as he gets close, he says, I want to be a... He then launches himself into the air, looks down and shouts, shit! Well, I thought it was funny. Sweet dreams. Hey, buddy o' mine. You worried me there for a minute. I saw you moving. I thought you'd made it out somehow. Do you know what? I almost drove out there to finish the job, maybe. But then I saw that you'd stopped moving, and you seemed to be in the river, or close to it, and then I realised that maybe you'd fell in. You did. You fell in and floated down the river, like that frickin' river of life you're always going on about. And then you stopped moving, and I waited, and you didn't move. You didn't move for quite a long time, and then I knew, or I hoped. Well, either you bashed your head and are now lying face down in the water, snagged on some log or something, or you drop your phone and you're still stuck in the gorge with no way to escape. Either way, it's a win-win. For me. Yes, I realise that leaving this voicemail is silly, since you're never going to hear it. But I needed to. I needed some bleeding catharsis. This is all very heavy, and it doesn't do to keep it bottled up.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes. Well, don't worry, Charlotte. We can try again another time.
Okay, wow. So that was a walk in the park. And I have a lot to say about it. So this is going to be a little bit longer than my usual wrap-ups. But first of all, I thought this was fantastic. So I want to start with the good. And that was really just the main thing was the voice acting. For something like this, where the narration really is propelling the story and it's driving the feelings that you as the player are supposed to have, it was incredibly important for that voice actor to be spot on and to deliver on the certain nuanced wording and phrasing and inflection and things that create subtle differences in emotion in one's voice. And I think this voice actor did an incredible job of getting that stuff across, because without that, there wouldn't have been these shifts in tone and there wouldn't have been the necessary shift in mood and tension, considering that the narration was the primary thing that really led you down this path of first starting with this kind of idyllic, peaceful setting where you're thinking, oh, I'm just going for a nice walk and my friend is leading me, into this sense of dread that there's some sort of impending doom. It just would not have been sold and it would not have worked if that voice actor wasn't able to capture the subtleties in the human voice and the way that our emotions are reflected in our tone. So 10 French toasts out of 10 for that. The second thing that was fantastic about this was the story itself. And I'm going to say something about this because I think this is what's going to take up the most time in this wrap up. I think two things about the story. Like going into it, as I was playing it, I thought like that the story was one thing, but then right when I got to the end, I thought it was another thing. So if it's this first thing, then the story is good. But if it's the other thing, then I think it was just freaking brilliant. So I'll tell you what I thought was going on first. And then I'll tell you what I think is going on now that I've actually finished it once I got to the end. So what I thought was going on at first, taking everything at face value, was that I was there and I was going to go on this walk that my friend was leading me on, which already seemed weird anyway, but just seemed strange that my friend's gonna be like, hey, I'll lead you down the path over the phone. Don't worry about it. Just go walking. There seemed to be something weird to me about that because I don't know anyone that does that. And it wasn't framed in a context that made it seem like it's a thing that they do all the time. So already I thought it was strange, but I was able to kind of reconcile that with the fact that the character, like once I started seeing quotes come up that reflected what the character was thinking, which I really only realized is what the quotes were until I saw like to the second or third quote. Once I got to that, then I realized that this person was going through stuff and there were certain things in the dialogue of the guy on the phone that made it seem like, he was trying to help me deal with issues. I was able to say, okay, maybe this isn't weird. Maybe this is something that's meant to be cathartic. And so he's meant to kind of be out there going through this journey alone. So then I didn't find it as weird. So anyway, what I thought at first was that this character was dealing with someone's death. And the reason I thought that, and I should just say his name was Charlie, I think is what my name was. And then the guy on the phone, I can't remember now what he was called. But in the very beginning, when the guy is telling me like how to orient myself so that I know I'm going on the right path, and he made the joke about, not walking into the light and said it was in bad taste, that's what clued me into the fact that somebody died, because that's the only situation in which you would say that telling someone not to walk into the light would be in bad taste. It would be if they just lost someone. So that clued me into like, number one, somebody passed away, and number two, that person was close to me, because if they weren't close to me, then my friend wouldn't be apologizing to me for having said it. So that was kind of a jumping off point for me to know that something was going on. So what I thought was going on originally was that this was a stereotypical love triangle. You had two friends who were both in love with the same girl, Taylor in this case, but one of them actually won her over, which was me, Charlie, and the other friend seemed okay with it at first. but then they started to resent them for it. And moving along towards the end of the story, and especially once we got to the point where my friend is talking to me when I'm up on the precipice about, the fact that Taylor felt trapped and, her death, I thought that basically I was in a relationship with her and that she just felt trapped in the relationship and was very depressed and very disconnected and ended up killing herself. And that this was why my friend was saying, if I had been there, it wouldn't have happened. Kind of to suggest that, like, if I was the one that was with her, she would never have taken her own life. If I was the one that was with her, she would still be here, basically. But then he started to talk about putting somebody out of their misery, like they're a wounded animal. And I didn't know if he was talking about how he felt about me, that he was basically leading me up there to an end, that he felt he was just going to be sort of the orchestrator of my demise, where I was going to go up there and tragically choose to take my own life because I was the wounded animal, because after Taylor died, I was the one who wasn't the same anymore. Or if he was talking about me taking Taylor's life, as if Taylor were a wounded animal. I wasn't quite sure about that reference. I do know that there was a callback to it slightly, when I was walking the path at the part where I had the choice to kill the deer or not to put it out of its misery. So I do like that there was a callback to that, though I don't know if the choice that I made there would have actually changed that part of the dialogue at the end, or if that was just something to get me to think. Either way, that's the one part I wasn't sure about, but that's what I felt happened. Then I thought for a moment, like when my friend was talking about how before she died, Taylor was talking to him and like he was trying to comfort her because he was in love with her. Then it was weird because then it made it seem like he's the one that took her life. So then I was like, wait a minute, did he kill her? Like, did she try to, come to him for consolation, and he ended up killing her, and he ended up putting her out of her misery? And then he, in retrospect, was blaming me for it and saying, really, like, if I had been the one that was with her from the start, it never would have come to this. I never would have had to do that to her, and I also wouldn't have to be doing this to you now. I don't know. All right. But all of that is kind of what I thought was going on at first. And if that's what was going on, then fine. The story was good. It was interesting. The pacing was good. And again, the voice actor just delivered it fine. There was absolutely nothing within the dialogue itself that I would have changed. It was pitch perfect. Everything, the delivery and the lines that were written themselves. Now, the point where I changed my mind was at the very end where I was walking towards the car and I heard a voice say that, sorry, Charlotte, we'll try again next time. Now, when I heard that, then my mind about what was going on completely changed, all right? In the beginning, when I first loaded up the game in the menu, there is another voice, and he's saying certain things. Now, you're not going to hear it because I was planning on, in the beginning of this, cutting those parts out because I didn't want to be talking over it with my intro. So what I'm probably going to do at the end of this is insert it back like when my end card is running so that you can hear it. But basically it was someone who was saying things like, oh, Mrs. Gordon, can you get us a cup of tea? And, we'll begin in a moment. Let me get my notes. And I was thinking, okay, this sounds weird. Like who would be going to someone who is trying to make them feel comfortable and saying that we'll begin whatever this thing is once I get my notes. And immediately I thought of a therapist. And what confirmed that for me was that when I actually hit start game, he did this countdown, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that sounded very much to me like a countdown leading somebody into hypnosis. So this is what my second theory is. If I was not taking this at face value, I believe that this entire walk in the park was somebody under hypnosis. And if that's true, then going back to the end again, where I said that walking towards the car, I heard that same voice from the beginning say, I'm sorry, Charlotte, we'll try again next time. Here's my theory. My theory is that my character is not Charlie. My character is Charlotte. And that Charlotte is somebody who has multiple personalities. All right. And this is kind of my justification for thinking that. The doctor apologizes, right? Saying, sorry, we'll try again next time. Now, what wasn't successful in this whole walk in the park? The whole point of it was for my friend to basically lead me to my death. That was what my friend wanted to happen. He was expecting me to get up there and that I was just going to sit there and wither away because I couldn't get out. Or, I feel like it might have been a little bit more powerful to, like, if he had alluded to me taking my own life and me feeling like that's an inevitability, rather than just saying, hey, I'm just going to leave you here because now you're trapped. Ha ha ha. But I didn't die. And so if the whole point of that thing, of that walk in the park, was for me to die, for that doctor to say, well, sorry, Charlotte, maybe we'll try it again next time. My theory is that this session that he put me into a hypnotic state to try to communicate with my other personality, with Charlie. Because, hello, like, my name is Charlotte and this guy's name is Charlie. You know what I mean? So this is like my male personality that's in there. And I felt like, and this part, I don't know if this is right, but I felt like at first the guy on the phone that was supposed to be my friend was actually the therapist in kind of finding a way to insert himself into my hypnotic state in order to guide that personality, Charlie, to his death, to kill off that personality. Okay? So that Charlotte would not have this other personality anymore. Right? And then I would be cured. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. Charlie didn't die. So that's why the doctor was saying at the end, oh, I'm sorry, we'll try again next time. Now, the reason I don't know if that's 100% correct is because as a doctor, I don't think that you would have gone the route of this hostility that my friend on the phone started to exhibit. So then my next extension of this theory is that the person on the phone was also a personality. These were two of Charlotte's personalities battling each other. And I can't remember the name of the guy on the phone. So that's why I just keep saying my friend. But if that were the case, then that would lead to a question about Taylor. Because why would these two personalities be at odds over a real person? And I don't know then if Taylor is actually real, if what happened with Taylor is real, and that these two personalities were personalities that were kind of both interacting with Taylor, and just the one personality won out, and then the other personality had to be suppressed, and felt that resentment. I don't know if that's what's going on, but because of that, I have a third theory, right? Because this is why I said this was going to be long, because I love the way that the story was executed for me to feel like talking about it for this long. But the third theory is that Taylor was also a personality. So let's just assume that for a moment, that all of the characters in this, except for the doctor, except for the original voice that you hear that does the countdown, they're all personalities that Charlotte has. How would that work? At first I was thinking, okay, that doesn't make sense, because if they all existed at the same time, my friend on the phone, he started talking about how he knew Taylor first. I knew Taylor since we were kids, and you came along and we just met you and, when we were in college. So I don't know if the developer just kind of wrote that to throw people off and go back to making you lean towards this being a real world kind of love triangle, or if that was still the case. Now, if that's still the case in this context, then it would suggest that Charlie was not the original personality. Then that would mean that my friend on the phone and Taylor were Charlotte's original personalities. And that Charlie, the personality that I'm playing now, actually came later. And my friend on the phone and Taylor were personalities that maybe Charlotte had since she was a child. Maybe she had some kind of tragedy that caused a split, and these were the two personalities that came out. And then as she got older, maybe in college, she developed this third personality. She developed Charlie. And Charlie somehow, just the way that Charlie was, it ended up causing this Taylor personality to feel trapped and to not feel like it was getting to come out as much as it used to. And that eventually that personality ended up being killed off, like successfully. And so now it's just Charlie's personality and the personality on the phone that are left. And, and that's where the hostility came from there, was that Charlie's personality was kind of killing off and hurting the original two. So I think that's what my overarching theory is that all of them were personalities, just because that would make it a lot more interesting, and it would be a really clever take on things. And it's very reminiscent of the movie called Identity, which I hope just mentioning the film doesn't spoil the film. If you haven't seen Identity, I think it's really good. I mean, it had mixed reviews, and I definitely think there were some things that could have been executed better, but I love the premise of the film. I think John Cusack was in it. I don't remember because I saw it years and years ago, but Identity is a really good film, and this reminded me of that. But then also at the end, when I'm walking back to the car and I see somebody sitting in the car, I'm thinking now, like at first with the original story, I was thinking that was my friend that was on the phone, and that whole time he was actually just following me along the path, making sure that I go where I'm supposed to go, and that's why he had the tracker. And then he ended up getting back, like when he saw that I was no longer like on the up on the mountain, and that I must have gone downstream, that maybe he went to the car to wait for me, like he was just waiting for me to show up so that he could finish the job or so that he could confront me. I don't know. But thinking about the second version of the story, it could have been that was actually the therapist sitting in the car, and that was sort of a way of saying that this was me starting to come out of the hypnotic state, and that it was just a blending of reality with my subconscious, because now I'm starting to see my doctor again. And that would correlate with the fact that as I started walking towards the car, he started counting again, as if taking me out of the hypnosis. So that's what I thought was going on with that. So anyway, if it's the former story, like I said, it's just a good story. But if my theories are right about this being actually just something that's happening in someone's mind, and it's a multiple personality situation, and they're trying to kill each other off, and in that case, this is brilliant. This is a brilliantly written, brilliantly executed game in terms of the story, okay, in terms of the narrative. Now that I've gushed about that and how much I love that and what my theories are, I got to get to the bad. For this kind of game, 3 things are going to be incredibly important, okay? The atmosphere, the environment, and the sound design. Because you are just walking through an environment. And that is something that partially has to propel the story. So here, number 1, it was longer than it needed to be. It could have been a lot shorter. And when I say it could have been shorter, I mean that specifically the parts where all I'm doing is walking and I'm not actually talking to my friend on the phone, there was nothing about those parts that actually fed the story. The one exception was, coming across the deer and killing the deer. Every other part where I'm walking, I'm literally just walking. And there's nothing happening in the environment that made me feel engaged with those parts. So it made those parts feel a lot more labored and like they were dragging on. And when they were happening, all I was thinking was, oh my God, can I finally get to the next part so that I can, so that my friend can talk to me again? Because that was the best part of the game. And when the best part of the game is only half of the game, there's something wrong. You know what I mean? So I feel like that could have been remedied in a couple of ways. Number 1, getting rid of that fucking music. I don't know what the deal was with this random choice of sound that would just pop in for the walking parts, like whenever my friend would be done talking on the phone. But the song, the music was just so inappropriate. It did not fit the story whatsoever. And I don't know if the developer was trying to go for this quirky, quaint music so that it would be this juxtaposition with the increasingly eerie unease and intensity of the conversations. but it was bad. It was terrible. The music choice was bad. For something like this, I feel personally, and other people may feel differently, but I personally feel that the only thing that there should have been was environmental sounds. And that emphasis should have been placed on the details in that sound design. So, for example, with my footsteps left a lot to be desired. They weren't really changing depending on the surface I was on. So when you got to a section like where there was the bridge, the drawbridge that I had to go across, there was even emphasis placed on the fact that it was dangerous. But going across it, I would have expected then to hear, first of all, for it to sound like I'm walking on wood, for the tonality of my footsteps have changed. But I would have liked to have heard creaking, and sounds of swaying and of a brittleness, something to add to the tension of crossing that bridge. And instead, what I heard was that dopey fucking music. Like, I don't know what that was, but every single walking section had that music that I felt took away from the story. It should have been environmental. And I do give the developer thumbs up that once I got to a higher altitude, they did add the sounds of wind. And that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about, is that you do get to a point where you're hearing something that is contributing to the unease of the environment. So it's not just the unease of the conversation on the phone, because that's bad game design. It should also be the unease of the environment that I'm walking through, because that's the whole point of games of this type, is that the storytelling is woven into the experience of the environment that you're walking through. And I just felt like the walking parts, because of the poor sound design, because of the poor music choice, and because there was nothing going on, really just took away from that immersion. And it made me feel like only half of the game was good, and only half of the game was propelling the narrative forward. And with that being the case, that's why I felt those sections were too long. I also feel like when I got to the point where there was some terrain that was a little dodgy, and I didn't know if I was supposed to go up it or not. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, am I going to have to Elder Scrolls this shit? Where I know that there's a path I'm supposed to take, but I can't find it and I can't go up. So I just start scooching my way real hard up a mountainside and just hoping that the game lets me get over it. I didn't know if that was what was supposed to be happening there. But there were definitely some parts where it was hard for me to get up and over and get back on the path. And if that was intentional, then I feel like there could have been some kind of animation for that. Obviously not showing hands and feet and stuff, because this is first person perspective, but just using a combination of sound design and the camera perspective to make it seem like I'm struggling to get up over certain obstacles, because then it would have been that not only is this journey increasing in kind of psychological tension and anxiety, but it is also increasing in physical effort, and that I'm now physically working towards this end, this mysterious end that I don't know about. I don't know what was going on, by the way, at the top, once I got to the mountain, with that weird texture that was inside that little caved out part that I walked through, where it looked like fucking quilted northern toilet paper. I don't know if that was just a funky, weird texture thing, or if that was actually if that was intentional. And if that was intentional, it's was that reality bleeding through? Was that quilted look like the quilting of the couch cushions that I was sitting on in my therapy session? I don't know, but I just didn't get why that texture just looked like that. That was weird. And then to that end as well, I feel like the aesthetics, the quality of the graphics of this game could have been a lot better. That left a lot to be desired as well. For games like this, for these so-called walking sims, where the environment contributes so much to the way that the player feels, I prefer photorealism. This is one of the few game genres where I like the environment to look as real as possible, and where it not looking as real as possible does take something away from it for me. I don't feel that way about games in general. I don't feel that all games need to have the best graphics ever and it needs to look like real life. Games of this type, though, I definitely feel benefit from that. They benefit from having an environment that you can really immerse yourself in, and especially for this kind of story. This kind of story just lent itself well to feeling like I'm in this real environment. And in fact, that would have been an even better contrast to my theory that this wasn't real. That this was just me in a hypnotic state. And it would make more sense as to why everything was so beautiful. And then maybe that beauty could have slightly kind of degraded when I got to the top. The other thing, though, that I think gave stuff away was that, and I totally forgot about it until just now, going back to the story and my theory, was that like the part with the deer and also the part where I got up to the top and I could go over the fall, there were like the words that were shooting like out on the screen. And I didn't know at first. I was thinking that was just game prompts. But then I was like, why is that? Like, why would the game be doing that when it hasn't done that at all? But then thinking about the words that were being used, that seemed like sort of the thoughts of of the subconscious mind, right? And that would also like work into what I was saying about this just being like a hypnotic state. So I also feel too, like when I went over that in terms of the graphics, that when I did finally decide to just go over the side of the falls, there should have been like an animation that took over to make sure that going over the falls was really smooth. Because the way it looked for me was like I tried to go over and then I scooched and I just like fell into the texture. And I kind of laughed a little bit in my head. It just didn't, it took something away from the impact. So that's my overall, I guess, summary for the negatives of this, is that there was so much punch with the voice acting and the execution of the story, and then that impact was deadened by the poor sound design, lackluster aesthetics, the decision to have nothing going on really during the walking parts, and for that to have affected the pacing overall, and have taken it from being really, really great to being kind of jarring, where it's like dragging on and then it's good, and then it's dragging on and then it's good. So that's how I feel about this game. I know that was really, really long. I don't know how long I've been talking. I feel like I've been talking about it for like a half hour, which is insane. I don't think I've ever done that lengthy of a wrap up for a game I've played, but that should be a testament to how good I think this game really, really was. In spite of having said something negative about it, I really just mean that this is a great game that, if those issues were addressed in a way and certain things were tweaked, could have been an amazingly brilliant game. For what it was, it really deserves that treatment. So I hope that this developer actually does spend more time working on it. I did see when I first went to the page to download it that there were like some patch notes, and that the developer did patch the game once and did try to address some problems like with the audio. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's the other thing. The audio levels, the volume, that really needs to be tweaked as well, because there were certain parts where, like, number one, the narration, the guy on the phone, his voice should universally be the loudest thing in the game. Okay, except when he's not talking, then the environment should be the loudest thing in the game. But especially when you got towards the end where there was all the wind and the rushing water of the fall, that was so loud that it started to drown out his character when he was talking. And that also took something away from it. So the sound design, but also in terms of the levels, that was something that I felt needed to be done. And like I said, the patch notes did mention that the developer did tweak some stuff from, I guess, the way that the game originally was. So I don't know what kind of direction they went in from what it was to what it is now that I've played it. But I do personally feel like it still has a way to go. But where it is right now, like, this is good bones. This is a fantastic game. And I'm so glad I came across it. And I'm really glad I played it. And I think that this developer has an incredible feel for storytelling and for subversive storytelling and misdirection. I think that that's spot on. I think that they nailed that. So I look forward to seeing more from them. And again, this was a walk in the park. And I hope you liked this episode. I hope you enjoyed the game. Let me know what you think about it. And I will see you in my next No Commentary episode, where I'm playing yet another game and saying absolutely nothing with my stupid mouth.
Hello.